a controversial book titled "It's Perfectly Normal" is being made available to middle school students in Missouri, and it has some parents fuming. It features cartoon drawings of naked people involved in sexual acts. The author says it teaches kids about their changing bodies, sexuality, and sexual health, but some parents still say it is just too much. Joining us from Missouri is Tim SCHMIDT. He is a parent who filed to have the book removed from the school's library. Tim, welcome to Arise America, and thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want you to set the stage, if you will, a little bit. How did you find out about this book, and what was your initial reaction when you saw it?
Sure. Well, when I first heard about this book, a friend of mine had put something online on Facebook and said that the book was available in their school district. And I just looked it up on a whim, thinking surely it wouldn't be available in our school district. And I was really shocked to find out that it was available in our school district. And it's available in our middle schools, and it's available without parental consent.
Well, not being too terribly graphic, but being descriptive enough so we understand, what is it that's in this book that you object to?
Sure. Well, the book is full of naked images of men, women, and children. The book shows naked people engaged in sexual intercourse. It has an image of a young man and a young girl masturbating. It teaches the kids how to do all these sexual things. And I'm not opposed to sex ed, but I am opposed to things like this being put in front of young children without parental knowledge or consent.
So what at this age do you think is appropriate for students to see and learn?
Well, I really think that's up to the parents. We have great schools, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to our schools, but I think when it comes to matters like sexual education, that's really the parents' role and the parents' decision on what's appropriate for their child. I believe every child is different, and different children mature at different ages. And so for the school to put this in our libraries and make it available without our knowledge or consent, I just feel like that's an issue, and many parents have felt the same.
I want to bring in another professional, but before I do, we did reach out to the Francis Howell School District and invited them to tell their side of the story. They gave us this statement instead, which says in part, after the review process was completed by the Reconsideration Committee, it was determined to keep the ebook available as a resource for checkout in the library. If a parent determines that she does not want their child to have access to certain materials, we honor that request. So they at this point are not going to take the book out, but they will, according to this statement, keep a student from checking this book out if their parents say they don't want them to. However, you filed a complaint to remove this book altogether. Why is this action not enough for you?
Well, actually, their statement's a little disingenuous, because without this, without me bringing this up and bringing this to the public attention, most parents wouldn't know that this book was in the library to begin with. So any child could have went and checked this book out, and now parents do know about it. So of course parents can take that action, but to say that this book was only available well, the book is available whether parents consent or not. It's only going to not be given to the children if the parents send something in saying that their children shouldn't have access to this book.
Sure, I understand.
And personally, I do feel like it's a little much, and most of the parents in the community that I've spoken with agree with my point of view. And there is a policy in Francis Howell School District that says the materials provided to our children should reflect the community's values. And from what I've seen from parents, this does not reflect our community's values.
Tim, I'm going to ask you to stand by. Don't go anywhere. I want to ask someone to join this conversation. On the phone is Professor Chris EMDIN. He is an associate professor of science education at Columbia University. Chris, you've been on Rise America before. Thank you so much for being on today. I do appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here with you.
In simple terms, you educate educators. So tell me from your professional standpoint, what is appropriate for, and I believe these would be 10, 11, 12-year-olds, middle schoolers, what's appropriate for them to see and to learn about sexuality at this age?
Well, the first thing specifically related to this case is that the book that's in question is not a brand new book. It's been in print for years now. It's widely read. It's widely reviewed by educators and parents, and a vast majority of the reviews of the text speak to the fact that it has some benefit in opening up the door for parents, teachers, and young people to engage in conversations about sex and sexuality.
So you've seen this book. I just want to ask what your reaction to it is.
Well, my reaction to the book is that reading the book, the information in the book is technically accurate. It conveys the information in a way that doesn't sexualize it, but just describes the processes. The reproductive process, like the process of transformation, like the process of restoration, is a function of the human body. It's something that students should learn and know about. Their knowledge of that information benefits them to make more wise sex decisions in the future. And, and our avoidance of opening up the door for kids to have text that allows them to have dialogue about these kind of issues just creates a repressive young person who inevitably, research tells us that young people who don't have the ability to have these conversations are more likely to make sex decisions, risky sex decisions, more likely to engage in unwanted pregnancies, et cetera. So the fact that we have a text that provides information, that provides visuals in a way that's not sexualizing the process but describing it technically is not an issue as far as I'm concerned.
And Tim, and you don't need to feel like you have to engage in debate with Dr. EMDIN, but sure. He makes an interesting point. And wouldn't you not rather your children get this information in a responsible educational setting as opposed to getting it amongst their peers and on the playground, which is how and where they're going to get it anyway?
Sure. Well, and again, I go back to I feel that's the parents' responsibility. I feel like, again, our children mature at different ages. I certainly plan and have talked to my kids about sexuality at an appropriate level. I think some of the images that are in the book go far beyond what most of us experienced in sex ed. I mean, I had sex ed in high school. I don't remember seeing images of children masturbating or images of people having sex fully nude. And so I think it goes a little bit beyond what people normally think of with sex ed. And again, that's the reaction that I've gotten from parents in our school district. And I appreciate this gentleman's point of view, but he's not a parent in our school district, and I believe our school district parents should have the right to decide what is put in front of their children.
And Chris, Tim makes a very good point, and that is these parents in this school district are paying taxes that funds that school, and so shouldn't they have a say about what is offered to their children for education?
I believe they absolutely should have a say. I do definitely also respect this parent's opinion and his representation of the value of this community. And I do believe that the school in this instance has done the right thing in that the book is there. If a parent objects to having their student having access to that book, then the student would not be able to check the book out. But it's a very important piece that we're missing here, which is this. The book it doesn't have a title that's hypersexualized. It doesn't talk about issues, in a glowing way about glorifying sex. It's a book entitled It's Perfectly Normal, to have a young person understand that it's normal to experience changes in their body and in their thinking as it relates to sexuality. And there's no young person who's going to go into the library, look for that book, and check out that book unless they have questions about their body and their sexuality. Otherwise, there would be no reason for them to check it out. And so if a kid goes there and is worried about themselves and then goes to a library to look for a text to help them to answer questions, it reflects the need for that kind of discourse and dialogue to be happening. And so what the school has done is, I'm going to leave the book there for young people who feel like they need it. If a parent objects, then the student will not be able to get it. And even though that student may be at a disservice, or if the parent believes that the student is in a better situation, the rule at play makes perfect sense.
We're going to have to leave the conversation right there, but Tim, I'll say one thing. You have raised a conversation that does need to be had. Tim Schmidt, Dr. Chris EMDIN, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Take care. And this is Arise America.